not at all worthy of the glorifications. And therefore, I'm passing all these glorifications to the Guru Parampara, who are empowering all of us to be in the service of Lord Chaitanya's movement under the leadership of our Acharya Srila Prabhupada and so many Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada disciples and the local leaders of various temples. So I seek the blessings of all the senior Vaishnavas assembled here and seek their blessings to speak something which may be worthy and in line with our parampara. So we'll sing Jai Radha Madhav first, and then we'll take up this opportunity to do seemingly impossible task of glorifying Srimati Radharani. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana, Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana, Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana, Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhav, Radha Madhav, Radhe. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada. Gurudev, Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur Prem, Hari Hari Bol. So today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 30, verse number 28. And let me see if I can share my screen. अन्याराधितो नूनम भगवान हरिरीश्वरः यन्नो विहाय गोविन्दः प्रीतो यामनयद्रहः अनयाराधितो नूनम भगवान हरिरीश्वरः यन्नो विहाय गोविन्दः प्रीतो यामनयद्रहः. Anaya, by her, Aradhitah, perfectly worshipped, Noonam, certainly, Bhagwan, the personality of Godhead, Harihi, Lord Krishna, Ishwaraha, the supreme controller, Yat, inasmuch as, Nah, yes, Vihaya, rejecting, Govindaha, Lord Govinda, Pritaha, pleased, Yam, whom, Anayat, led, Raha, to a secluded place. Certainly, this particular gopi has perfectly worshipped the all-powerful personality of Godhead, Govinda, since he was so pleased with her that he abandoned the rest of us and brought her to a secluded place. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that the word Aradhita refers to Srimati Radharani. He comments, the sage Sukadev Goswami has tried with all endeavor to keep her name hidden, but now it automatically shines forth from the moon of his mouth. That he has spoken her name is indeed her mercy, and thus the word Aradhitah is like the rumbling of a kettle drum sounded to announce her great fortune. Although the gopis spoke as if jealous of Srimati Radharani, they were actually ecstatic to see that she had captured Shri Krishna. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti quotes the following detailed description of Srimati Radharani's footprints as given by Srila Rup Goswami in his Shri Ujjwala Neelamani. At the base of the large toe of her left foot is the mark of a barley corn. Below that mark is a disc. Below the disc is an umbrella, and below the umbrella is a bracelet. A vertical line extends from the middle of her foot to the juncture of her large and second toes. At the base of the middle toe is a lotus. Below that is a flag with a banner, and below the flag is a creeper, together with a flower. At the base of her small toe is an elephant goat, and upon her heel is a half moon. Thus, there are 11 marks on her left foot. At the base of the large toe of her right foot is a conch shell, and below that a spear. At the base of the small toe of her right foot is a sacrificial altar, and below that an earring, and below the earring a club. Along the base of the second, third, fourth, and small toe is the mark of a mountain, below which is a chariot, and on the heel is a fish. Thus, altogether, there are 19 distinguishing marks on the soles of Srimati Radharani's lotus feet. Anyaradhitanunam Bhagwan Haririshwaraha Yanno Vyaya Govinda Prito Yamanayadraha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanam Timirindasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Sapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, on the occasion of Radhashtami, we would be now making an attempt to glorify Srimati Radharani, understand the position of Srimati Radharani. We, as conditioned souls, may have no qualifications either to speak or to understand this very exalted subject matter. So we take shelter of our Guru Parampara, of our exalted Guru Parampara, followed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who himself is in the mood of Srimati Radharani, and therefore is able to give us prelude and insight into who is Srimati Radharani. So today we'll be making an attempt to repeat the words of the Acharyas, the words of Srila Prabhupada. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has beautifully explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Srila Sukdev Goswami has explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Also, we'll be referring to the lectures of Srila Prabhupada and a very beautiful book by His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Swami called as The Glories and Pastimes of Srimati Radharani. So the verse that we have just read from Canto 10, chapter 30 and verse number 28 is the only verse which very secretively reveals the name of Radharani. And why so? So Parikshit Maharaj, when he was relaying back what he heard from Sukdev Goswami to his mother, Uttara, at that time, he explains in Brihad Bhagavatam that his Guru Maharaj, Sukdev Goswami, he has deliberately tried to hide the names or the name of Srimati Radharani or the names of other gopis. Reason being, although he has given the mood, the exchanges, the loving exchanges and the pastimes, but he did not want to utter the words of Radharani. The reason being that if he did so, it would have created emotions of ecstasy within his heart. And in that joyful ecstasy, there was a chance that he could have lost his external consciousness. And the flow of Srimad Bhagavatam from his lotus mouth would have interrupted. And for that reason alone, he has mentioned the name in a very, very secretive and hidden way. And I would like you to take you all through some verses prior to this particular verse in chapter 10. And the context is that this is a Rasa Mandal, and Lord Krishna is dancing with millions of gopis in this Rasa Mandal. And at some point in time, Lord Krishna decided to walk away from this Rasa Mandal. And at that time, the Vipralambha Bhava in the gopis became very prominent. And all of them, they started to look for Krishna like a mad woman. And some of these verses, it is described the epitome of Vipralambha, loving Krishna in separation. So I'll read through some of these translations to understand the context where Shukdev Goswami was prompted to speak about Radharani. Singing loudly of Krishna, they searched for him throughout Vrindavan forest like a band of mad women. They even asked the trees about him, who as the supersoul is present inside and outside of all created things, just like the sky. O Aswath tree, O Plaksha, O Nyagrodha, have you seen Krishna? That son of Nanda Maharaj has gone away after stealing our minds with his loving smiles and glances. O Kurbaka tree, O Ashoka, O Naga, Punaga, Champaka, has Balram's younger brother, whose smile removed the audacity of all proud women, passed this way? O Tulasi, to whom the feet of Govinda are so dear, have you seen the infallible one walk by, wearing you and encircled by swans of bees? O Malati, O Malika, has Madhav gone by here, giving you pleasure with the touch of his hand? And like that, they started to ask the trees, knowing very well that trees would not reply back. But still, they consistently, like mad women, distraught from searching for Krishna, they began to act out his various pastimes, fully absorbed in thoughts of him. So one gopi, she imitated Putana, while another, she acted like an infant Krishna and pretended to suck her breast. Another gopi, crying in imitation of infant Krishna, kicked a gopi who was taking the role of the cart demon, Saktashura. One gopi took the role of Trinavrata and carried away another who was acting like infant Krishna, while yet another gopi called about, her ankle bells tinkling as she pulled her feet. Two gopis acted like Rama, which means Balram, and Krishna, in the midst of several others who took the role of cowherd boys. One gopi enacted Krishna's killing of the demon Vratasura, represented by another gopi, and pair of gopis acted out the killing of Bakasura. So these gopis are now enacting all the Vrindavan pastimes of Lord Hari. When Gan Gopi perfectly imitated how Krishna would call the cows who had wandered far away, how he would play his flute, and how he would engage in various sports, the others congratulated her with exclamations of, "Well done, well done." Another gopi, her mind fixed on Krishna, walked about with her arm resting on the shoulder of a friend and declared, "I am Krishna. Just see how gracefully I move." Don't be afraid of the wind and rain, said one gopi. I will save you. And with that, she lifted her shawl above her head. So imitating Govardhan Leela. One gopi climbed on another's shoulders and putting her foot on other's head said, Go away from here, O wicked snake. You should know that I have taken birth in this world just to punish the envious. Then another gopi spoke up, My dear cowherd boys, look at this raging forest fire. Quickly, close your eyes and I will easily protect you. One gopi tied up her slender companion with a flower garland and said, Now I will blind this boy who has broken the butter pot and stolen the butter. The second gopi then covered her face and beautiful eyes, pretending to be afraid. So, Damodar Leela. While the gopis were thus imitating Krishna's pastimes and asking Vrindavan creepers and trees where Krishna, the supersoul, might be, they happened to see his footprints in a corner of the forest. The marks of flag, lotus, thunderbolt, elephant goat, barley corn, and so forth on these footprints clearly distinguishes them as belonging to the great soul, the son of Nanda Maharaj. The gopis began following Krishna's path as shown by his many footprints. But when they saw that these prints were thoroughly intermixed with those of his dearmost consort, they became perturbed and spoke as follows. Here we see the footprint of some gopi who must have been walking along with the son of Nanda Maharaj. He must have put his arm on her shoulder, just as an elephant rests his trunk on the shoulder of an accompanying she-elephant. Certainly, this particular gopi has perfectly worshipped the all-powerful personality of Godhead, Govinda, since he was so pleased with her that he abandoned the rest of us and brought her to a secluded place. O girls, the dust of Govinda's lotus feet is so sacred that even Brahma, Shiva, and goddess Rama take the dust upon their heads to dispel sinful reactions. These footprints of that special gopi greatly disturb us. Of all the gopis, she alone was taken away to a secluded place where she is enjoying the lips of Krishna. Look, we cannot see her footprints over here. It is obvious that the grass and sprouts were hurting the tender soles of her feet. And so the lover lifted up his beloved. Please observe, my dear gopis, how in this place lusty Krishna's footprints are pressed more deeply into the ground. Carrying the weight of his beloved must have been difficult for him. And over here, that intelligent boy must have put her down to gather some flowers. Just see how in this place Krishna collected flowers for his beloved. Here, he has left the impression of only the front part of his feet because he was standing on his toes to reach the flowers. Certainly, Krishna sat down here with his girlfriend to arrange her hair. And like that, gopis are now trying to see Krishna through the marks of Krishna and Radharani. And they're trying to anticipate what would have happened. So on text 40, Sukdev Goswami said, while continuing to search out Krishna's path, the gopis discovered their unhappy friend close by. She was bewildered by separation from her lover. So in this context, we see when the verse number 28 came, that time gopis were looking footprints of this special gopi. And therefore, in this verse, there's a detailed description of the footprints of Srimati Radharani. And very tactfully, Sukdev Goswami has expressed that this gopi, this special gopi, who has perfectly worshipped because Aradhita, the word Aradhita is the root word from which word Radha is derived. And Aradhita means one who has perfectly worshipped, or one who knows the art of perfectly worshipping the Lord Govinda. And therefore, the word Aradhita has been given. So this is a very special pastime of Srimati Radharani at the Rasa Mandala. And we understand from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi 1.5, it is explained, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritir Halladani Shakti Rasmad Ekat Manav Api Bhuvi Pura Deha Bedam Katatau Tau Chaitanyakhyam Prakatam Adhuna Tadvayam Cha Ekyam Aptam Radha Bhav Duti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Sarupam. The loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna are transcendental manifestation of the Lord's internal pleasure-giving potency. Although Radha and Krishna are one in their identity, previously they separated themselves. Now these two transcendental identities have again united in the form of Lord Chaitanya. I bow down to him who has manifested himself with the sentiment and complexion of Srimati Radharani, although he is Krishna himself. So, in the chapter 4th of Adi Leela in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has given confidential reasons for the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he explains that before I go on explaining or try to talk about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I will first delineate the position of Radha and Krishna. From the description of the glory of Lord Chaitanya will be known. So unless we understand the glories of Srimati Radharani, it is difficult to understand the glories of Lord Chaitanya. And therefore, in this chapter, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has mentioned detailed explanation of who is Srimati Radharani. And I would like us to just quickly run through this beautiful explanations of Srimati Radharani. So this is Adi Leela, chapter 4th. Srimati Radhika is the transformation of Krishna's love. She is his internal energy called Halladani. That Halladani energy gives Krishna pleasure and nourishes his devotees. Lord Krishna's body is Sat, Chit and Anand. Spiritual energy manifests three forms. So we understand the context of this is that there is internal energy of the Lord. Lord has various energies. One is internal energy of Krishna, external energy of Krishna, and then there is Tatastha Shakti, which is the marginal potency of Krishna. Now we understand that the external energy of Krishna is this material world, manifested material world, personified by Srimati Durga Devi. Then there is Tatastha energy, which is the marginal energy, which is the living entity who has got freedom to choose in which energy he wants to stay, either external or internal energy of the Lord. And then there is internal energy of the Lord. This internal energy of the Lord is also called Sarupa Sakti or Chitta Sakti of the Lord. Now this internal energy of the Lord has three aspects. We all know that the soul is Sat, Chit and Anand. And Lord Krishna is also complete Sat, Chit and Anand. And the spiritual realm is all Sat, Chit and Anand. This aspect of Sat, Chit and Anand, which is the eternal potency of the Lord, is coming from three potencies of the Lord. And these are Sandhini Shakti, Samvit Shakti, and Halladani Shakti of the Lord. Now, each of these Shaktis has an aspect which releases these potencies. So, Sandhini Shakti has the aspect of eternal existence, the Lord's existential potency by which he maintains his existence. And the very essential portion of the Sandhini potency is the Suddha Sattva aspect. Now, this Suddha Sattva aspects, Lord Krishna's existence rests upon this Suddha Sattva. Krishna's mother, father, all the abodes and houses and the beddings and the seats and all the transformations, they are all transformations of Suddha Sattva. Then there is Samvit Shakti. Now this Samvit Shakti is the aspect of the cognizance potency, which means this is the Shakti by which one can know the Lord himself, and the Lord knows himself. The essence of the Samvit potency is the knowledge that Supreme Personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna. So that's the knowledge aspect. And then the third in Sat Chit and Anand is the Haladani Shakti. This Haladani Shakti is his internal energy, very, very dear to him, which is the pleasure potency of the Lord. And by this potency, he possesses transcendental bliss and causes his devotees to experience this bliss. So that is explained in these lines here in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We'll just read through it. Haladani is the aspect of bliss, Sandhani, the eternal existence, and Samvit is the cognizance, which is also accepted as knowledge. O Lord, you are the support of everything. The three attributes, Haladani, Sandhani, and Samvit, exist in you as one spiritual energy. But the material modes which causes happiness, misery, and mixtures do not exist in you. So this is a verse number 63. Haladani, Sandhani, Samvit, Tvai eka sarva samastitau, Lad tapkari mishra, Tvai nagun varjite. So it is explained that the Samvit, the internal potency of the Lord, is his own potency, is his internal energy. But these material modes, which is our external energy, they do not exist within you. They are existing outside of you, but they are still part of you. You do not interact directly with this energy. Although this energy is in your control. Maya agtechana prakriti suyate sacharachara. And it's in your direct control. Lord Krishna is saying that. But still, these internal energy, they exist within Krishna. The Haladani, the Sandhini, and the Samvit Shakti. Now, the essential portion of Sandhini is Suddha Sattva. Lord Krishna rests upon it. Existence rests upon it. We talked about it. So I'll just skip some of this. The essence of Haladani potency is love of God. The essence of love of God is emotion or bhava. And the unlimited development of emotion is Mahabhava. Now this Mahabhava is Srimati Radharani. It is explained in next verse. Srimati Radha Thakurani is the embodiment of Mahabhava. So essence of Haladani potency is love of God. The essence of love of God is bhava. And the unlimited development of a bhava is Mahabhava. And the Radharani, Srimati Radharani, is the embodiment of this Mahabhava. She is the repository of all good qualities and the crest jewel among all the lovely counselors of Lord Krishna. Of this, two gopis, which is Radharani and Chandravali, Srimati Radharani is superior in all respects. She is the embodiment of Mahabhava and she surpasses all in good qualities. Her mind, senses, and body are steeped in love for Krishna. She is Krishna's own energy and she helps him in his pastimes. Then there is beautiful verse from Brahma Samhita, which is quoted here by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Ananda chinmaya ras pratibhavitabhes tabirya eva nija rupa taya kalabhi Goloka eva nivasati akhilatma bhuto govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord who resides in his own realm, Golok, with Radha. who resembles his own spiritual figure and who embodies the ecstatic potency, Aladani. Their companions are her confidants, who embody extensions of her bodily form and who are imbued and permeated with ever blissful spiritual rasa. Now Krishnadas is saying, now please listen to how Lord Krishna's consorts help him taste rasa and how they help him in his pastimes. The beloved consorts of Lord Krishna are of three kinds: the goddess of fortune, the queens, and the milkmaids or the grudge gopis, who are the foremost of all. These consorts all proceed from Radhika. So here it is being declared that whoever Lord Krishna is associating as Lord Krishna or as his own expansions, all those consorts, whether they are goddess of fortune or the queens of Dwarika or the Vraj Gopis, they are all expansions of Srimati Radharani. So the goddess of fortune are partial manifestations of Radhika, and the queens are reflections of her own image. The goddess of fortune are plenary portions, and they display the form of Vaibhava Vilas. The queens are the nature of our Vaibhav Prakash, which is opulence. The Vraj Devis have diverse bodily features and are expansions. Her expansions are the instruments for expanding rasa. Without many consorts, there is no such exaltation in rasa. Therefore, there are many manifestations of Srimati Radharani to assist in the Lord's pastimes. Radharani is the one who gives pleasure to Govinda, and she's also the enchantress of Govinda. She is the be-all and end-all of Govinda and the crest jewel of all his concerts. Then there is text 83, which says, Devi Krishmai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarva Kanti Sammohani Para. The transcendental goddess Srimati Radharani is the direct counterpart of Lord Shri Krishna. She is the central figure for all the goddess of fortune. She possesses all the attractiveness to attract all the attractive personality of Godhead. She is the primeval internal potency of the Lord. Now this verse is coming from Brihad Gautamayi Tantra. At this point, I would like to introduce Radharani's appearance in Goloka Vindavantham, which is the spiritual abode of Lord Krishna. And this is from the book that I was mentioning, authored by Bhakti Purushottam Swami Maharaj, The Glories and Pastimes of Radharani. So in Golok Vrindavan, there is a place called Rasa Mandala. And this Rasa Mandala, one side there's a mountain called as Sarshranaga. Now this Satashranga, this Satashranga mountain that is nothing but Golok Vrindavan. In Bhulok, we have Govardhan Hill. So original form of Govardhan Hill is the Satashranga mountain in Golok Vrindavan Dham. The Lord of the universe desired, Lord Krishna desired to enjoy. As soon as he desires so, in his mind, automatically from his left side appeared a beautiful Devi. She was decorated with valuable jewels and she was wearing cloth purified by the fire. She was dazzling like millions of moons. Her body, the color of her body was like molten gold, the pink color. She was illuminating everything by her radiance. When she smiled, her teeth were very attractive. Her face defeated the beauty of the lotus flower in autumn. She was wearing a flower garland of malati and a diamond necklace. Her effulgence was brilliant like the sun in summer season.
and a diamond, and she was sitting next to Krishna on this Ratna Singhasana. So like this, Radharani appeared for the very first time. And from the right side of Lord Krishna, he himself appeared. In Narad Pancharatra, it is mentioned the two-handed form of Parama Brahma, in the form of a young cowherd boy whose bodily color was like new clouds, was wandering Rasamandala in Golok Dham. Only one form of Ishvara, divided into two forms. One part appeared as a female, other part which is the internal potency of Krishna, and the other part remained as himself, which is Vibhu Purasha, or the male form. So there is no difference between Radha and Krishna. Krishna serves Radha and Radha serves Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna, this is his own pleasure potency. He cannot enjoy alone. Therefore, for expanding his own enjoyment, from within himself, with his own internal energy, Srimati Radharani appeared. Radha Purna Shakti, Krishna Purna Shaktiman, Dui Vastu Bhedanai, Shastra Praman. By this, it is explained that Radha and Krishna are one in truth. Radha is the constitutionally the energy of Krishna. So, if we read through further on Chaitanya Charitamrita, we understand the position of Srimati Radharani even strongly, and how her existence came about in the spiritual world. So there are more explanations of why Srimati Radharani's name is Radha. And in this particular pastime, when Srimati Radharani was appeared, there's a mention that she immediately ran to pick flowers to offer to the lotus feet of Sri Hari. And because she appeared in the Rasa Mandala, the Ra part of Rasa Mandala became the first Ra part of Radha. And because she was running, in Sanskrit, running is Dhavati, Dhavaman. And Dha is taken from Dhavaman, running. And so she was running in the Rasa Mandala, and therefore her name was Radha. In 87th verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is mentioned, Krishna Vancha Purti Rupa Kare Aradhane Ataiva Radhika Nam Purane Vakhane. Her worship, Aradhana, consists of fulfilling the desires of Lord Krishna. Therefore, the Purana is called Radhika. And in purport, Srila Prabhupada just mentioned, Nam Radha is derived from the root word Aradhana, which means worship. A personality who excels all in worship, Krishna, worshipping Krishna, may therefore be called Radhika, the greatest servitor. So there's no one can replace the position of Srimati Radharani. No one can replace. Because Srimati Radharani's position is unique. Further, in that same chapter, there are mentions of the kind of pleasure that Radharani gives to Krishna and the Krishna gives to Radharani and all the gopis. It is mentioned the gopis taste a pleasure which is 10 million times greater than the pleasure of Lord Krishna derives from seeing them. So, Srila Prabhupada states that there is no sense of personal satisfaction when the gopis are dressing up. They're only dressing to make Krishna happy. So what happens? The wonderful characteristics of gopis are beyond imagination. They give pleasure to Krishna. And when they see Krishna, they get million times more happiness than what Krishna gets for himself. So how is this happening? And it is mentioned that situation of gopis is very perplexing. They don't want personal happiness, but that personal happiness is imposed upon them. The solution to this perplexity is that Sri Krishna's sense of happiness is limited by the happiness of the gopis. Devotees at Vrindavan therefore try to serve the gopis, namely Radharani and her associates. If one gains the favor of the gopis, he easily gains the favor of Krishna, because on the recommendation of the gopis, Krishna at once accepts the service of a devotee. Lord Chaitanya therefore wanted to please the gopis instead of Krishna, but his contemporaries misunderstood him, and for this reason Lord Chaitanya renounced the order of householder life and became a sannyasi. So when Lord Krishna sees the gopis, his joy increases and his unparalleled sweetness increases. And gopis think Krishna has obtained so much of pleasure by seeing me. That thought increases the fullness of the beauty of their faces and bodies. And when the beauty of Lord Krishna increases at the sight of the beauty of the gopis, and more the gopis see Lord Krishna's beauty, the more their beauty increases. This way, there is this transcendental competition, and no one is getting defeated. The transcendental bliss is increasing and increasing and increasing. And Krishna derives pleasure from the beauty and good qualities of the gopis. And when the gopis see his pleasure, the joy of the gopi increases. And it's continuously happening. It's not that it stops anywhere. It just happens and continues to happen. Thus, the joy of gopis nourishes the joy of Krishna. So these are some of the mentions from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Srila Prabhupada, I was referring to one of his lectures, and he mentioned first, on the day of Radhashtami, he was giving a lecture and he said, first you have to worship Radharani. If you go through Radharani, in Vrindavan, you will see all devotees, they address one another. Jai Radhe. If Radharani is pleased, then Krishna will be easily pleased. Anyone who comes before Radharani to serve Krishna, she becomes so pleased. And she recommends to Krishna, oh, here is a devotee of Krishna. Krishna, here is a devotee who is better than me. So this is Radharani. I may be a fallen rascal, but if I try to reach Krishna through Radharani, then my business is successful. Therefore, we should worship Radharani first. That is our business. Instead of offering directly one flower to Krishna, you just put it in hands of Radharani. Oh, my mother Radharani, Jagat Mata, if you kindly take this flower and offer it to Krishna, then Radharani would say, oh, you have bought a flower? Krishna says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Thoyam, Yome Bhaktya Prakshati. But don't offer directly to Krishna. Just offer it through Radharani. It will be very much appreciated by Radharani. So we can see the mood of our parampara, the mood of our acharyas, that how they are all worshipping Srimati Radharani. But in Gaudiya Vaishnava parampara, we worship Lord Chaitanya, and I'll come to that in a little later stage. The mood of the Goswamis, they're always searching for Srimati Radharani. It's not that it is a cheap thing that one can just call the name of Radha or say Radhe Radhe and one could obtain the mercy of Radharani. Or one can claim that, oh, I meet and see Radharani. I have seen her in my dreams today, and I am playing with her, or I am playing as one of the gopis, and I'm living this gopi bhava. So all this Sahajya Prakriti is completely kicked out of by the acharyas in our parampara. He Radhe Braja Devike Chalalite He Nanda Suno Kutaha Shri Govardhan Padapa Kalikalindi Vanikutaha. So this is how the Goswamis are searching. Are you there under the Govardhan hill, or you are in the banks of Yamuna? Kalindi Vanikutaha. Their business was crying like this. Where are you? Where are you, Radharani? Where are you, Lalita? Where are you, Vishakha? The associates of Radharani. So we see that all these Goswamis and even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, when he was in Gambhira in his final pastimes, he was constantly looking after for Srimati Radharani. And he would run away in the ocean, sometimes in the woods, sometimes in the uh, jungles. He would just disappear, and Sarup Damodar and others would chase after and look, where is their Lord? Because he was behaving like mad woman, just like the gopis of Vrindavan. They were behaving like mad in the Vipralambha bhav. In act of devotion, there are multiple types of Vipralambha and Sambhog bhav mentioned. And in one of the strongest Vipralambha bhav was this completely mad, when the beloved is not present before you. So we understand that all these Goswamis, they are not ordinary souls. They are also descending from the spiritual world. And it is mentioned the identities of these spiritual souls in Kavi Karnapura, Sri Gaura, Ganodesha Deepika. The identities are mentioned that Rup Goswami is nobody but Rupa Manjari. And Rup Manjari's closest friend, known as Rati Manjari or a Lavanga Manjari, she appeared as Sanatan Goswami. Ananga Manjari appeared as Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Some also say that Gopal Bhatta Goswami is actually incarnation of Sri Guna Manjari. Rag Manjari appeared as Srila Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, who lived in cottage by the shore of Radha Kund. And Raghunath Das Goswami, he is the incarnation of Rasa Manjari. Some say that Raghunath Das Goswami was incarnation of Rati Manjari. Others say he is the incarnation of Hanumati Devi. Srila Jeev Goswami is incarnation of Vilasa Manjari. So this is our Gaudiya Parampara. And they are teaching us to worship Srimati Radharani through Lord Chaitanya, because there is no difference between Lord Chaitanya and Radha and Krishna. Radha Krishna, who were separated, Krishna, when separated himself as Radharani and himself, he integrates himself back as Lord Chaitanya. And when we worship Lord Chaitanya, we are worshipping Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani. How do we worship? Unless we are at the stage of Paramahamsa, we cannot worship Radharani directly without awe and reverence. So the awe and reverence is the essential part of worshipping in the conditioned stage. In the conditioned stage, actual recommendation of worshipping like you worship Vaikuntapati with his consort. Now, that is in very awe and reverence. And we see that in our ISKCON, we worship our deities in awe and reverence. This is called Vedhi Marg or Vidhi Marg. Now, with this Vidhi Marg, there are rules and regulations. There are so many rules and regulations. At a particular time, we should get up and offer the bhoga to the deities. Then we offer the artis to the deities. And like that, we are continuously serving the deities in the mood of servitorship, dasya, with awe and reverence. Offering the artis and the charmers. So ensuring that deities and the lordships are taken care in the grave mood of awe and reverence, and making sure that we are punctual, we are clean, our minds are clean, our bodies are clean, we're chanting mantras, Vedic hymns in front of the deities. So this is all coming from Pancharatrika Vidhi. But I heard a lecture from His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj, because ISKCON devotees are worshipping Gaur Nitai in awe and reverence. This awe and reverence is actually taken as Raganuga Bhakti. Why? Raganuga means that we are following in the footsteps of Vraj devotees. And who is the topmost in Vraj? That is Srimati Radha. So if we are worshipping Srimati Radharani, then what is that bhakti? It's called Raganuga Bhakti. So this is why this Gauriya Parampara is very unique. In Gauriya Parampara, we are able to worship in the conditioned stage in such a way that we will get the destination of what a Raganuga Bhakti will get. That's the causeless mercy of Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya is nobody but Srimati Radharani. He has taken up the mood of Srimati Radharani just to figure out that what is the pleasure, that million times more pleasure that Radharani gets in reciprocation with Lord Krishna. What is that pleasure? To find that internal pleasure, Lord Chaitanya comes and is giving and bestowing his mercy upon all the conditioned souls. So this way, we can worship Gaur Nitai with awe and reverence. And by doing so, we are actually achieving the results of Raganuga Bhakti, which is the love of God. Prema Pumartha Mahana. That love we are obtaining. So it's already 8:45. And there's a beautiful, we have heard about how Radharani appeared in Goloka. Then Radharani's appearance on the Bhuloka is also very important, and which is also mentioned in this book by Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj. I'll briefly try to cover that. So there are various pastimes of at least two that is recorded in this book, and perhaps now we can only cover one. In Lalita Madhava, Srila Rup Goswami has explained the appearance of Srimati Radharani, which was explained by Purnamasi Devi to the Gargi, who is no one but the daughter of Garga Muni. And details of this appearance were known to Purnamasi Devi. And who is Purnamasi? She arranges all the pastimes of Lord in Vindavan. And she shared this information with Mother Yashoda and Rohini Devi. So there was this Vindhya Parvat, and Vindhya Parvat was very envious of great Himalayan mountain. These are all personalities. Himalayan mountain is personality, otherwise how can the Mother Parvati be daughter of Himalaya? So Mother Parvati, who's daughter of Himalaya, she had the fortune of Mahadev as her husband, and because of which Himalaya mountain becomes the emperor. Therefore, Vindhya Parvat is very envious. So Vindhya Parvat desires to have a daughter who can marry someone, a husband who can defeat the Mahadev, and so that he becomes Rajendra, the emperor. With this intention, Vindhya Parvat starts worshipping Lord Brahma. After severe austerities, Lord Brahma appeared to him, and when he asked for this boon, that grant me a daughter who can bring a husband who can defeat Mahadev, Lord Brahma said Tathastu. But after doing so, Lord Brahma was completely perplexed. What have I said? Yes, too. Because who will be able to defeat Mahadev? There's nobody who can defeat Mahadev. Then he thought, the only person who can defeat Mahadev is Krishna, the Supreme Lord himself. And who can be the husband or wife of Radha, of Lord Krishna? She can be only Radharani. So he said, how Radharani can now be the daughter of Vindhya Parvat? He was completely perplexed, and in that perplexity, he started to perform austerities to please Radharani. Now Lord Brahma is performing austerities and prayers to Radharani. And then Radharani appeared before Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma placed her request that somehow or the other you have to appear as daughter of Vindhya Parvat. And Radharani agreed. So by the divine arrangement, Radharani asked Yogamaya. There were two girls, Radharani and Chandravali, who were already in the wombs of Rishabhanu and Chandrabhanu, that these daughters be placed from the wives of Rishabhanu and Chandrabhanu into the womb of the wife of Vindhya Parvat. So as a result, Vindhya Parvat's wife begot two children. They were very beautiful. In meantime, Lord Krishna appeared in Mathura. And by the order of Lord, we all know that how Vasudev took the Lord to Vrindavan and Gokul, and then replaced the daughter of Mother Yashoda with Lord Krishna and brought daughter of Mother Yashoda back with him. And when Kamsa came to kill this son of Devaki, the eighth child, all he found was a daughter, which he tried to kill, and this daughter escaped in the sky, who is nobody else but Durga Devi herself. And she declared, Kamsa, you were the demon Kalnemi in your previous birth. That Lord who killed you with his disc in the battle, who is known by the learned personalities as the most worshipable, same Lord who is the cause of all cosmic manifestation has appeared on the earth to give pleasure to all the living entities. You should know one more thing. By tomorrow, 8 Mahashakti, greater and more attractive than me, will also take birth on the earth. The names are Radha, Chandravali, Lalita, Vishakha, Padma, Saibhya, Shyamala, Bhadra. Among these 8 Mahashakti, 2 will be most famous for their great qualities, Radha and Chandravali. Whoever marries these 2 girls will be most fortunate. He will be Rajendra and will be so powerful that he will defeat even Mahadev in the battle. After they saying this, Durga Devi disappeared. And Kamsa, when he heard all this, he ordered Putana immediately to kill all the newborn males and abduct all newborn females. So by order of Kamsa, Putana flew, and somehow he got hold of these 2 most beautiful baby girls. When Vindhya's Parvat wife got to know that this is what has happened, I will just refer to the book here. After Vindhya Parvat's wife gave birth to 2 daughters, Vindhya arranged a samskar ceremony for these 2 girls. And Brahman was performed the yagna with 2 daughters present. When Putana saw these 2 beautiful girls, she picked them up and started to fly away. At that time, King Vindhya became very worried and ordered the Brahmanas to chant mantras to kill this Putana. So Brahmanas, they started chanting mantras. And when they were chanting mantras, this Putana started to become weak. She was not able to hold the baby girls. And what she did, she threw one of them into a river, which was the river in the king of Vidarbha. And Bhishmak, the king of Vidarbha, found this girl and kept her with him until the age of 5. So this was Chandravali. At that time, Jambavant was residing both in Vindhyachal and Govardhan mountains. And by order of Vindhya, Jambavant went to Vidarbha and took this girl back. She was known as Chandravali. While Putana was still flying, she started to become weak because of the chanting of the mantras, and she was as flying above the Vraja, she fell to the ground. At that time, Purnamasi recovered the baby girl from Putana and gave her to Mukhara, telling her she's the daughter of your son-in-law Vrishabhanu, so you should take care of her. Thus, from that day, she became known as Radha, the daughter of King Vishbhanu Purnamasi. Purnamasi recovered 5 more girls from Putana, and these were Lalita, Padma, Bhadra, Sabya, and Shyama. Thus, Srimati Radharani and Chandravali appeared along with their Sakhis. So that is one description of appearance of Radharani. And there is other description of appearance of Radharani. So in the interest of time, we'll just skip that pastime right now. There is one beautiful pastime, or the Leela of Radharani. I heard from His Holiness Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj in a lecture, and it's also mentioned in this book. It's a very, very enchanting pastime. Radharani, she discussed as Subala. So what happened one day in Kokilavan, Lord Krishna was with Subala, and he was wanting to meet Srimati Radharani. So whenever Krishna wants to meet Radharani, he plays his flute, and this note of the flute is such that only Radharani can hear this note. So when Radharani heard the secret calling of her beloved Govinda, she wanted to run away. But what happened? As she wanted to go enthusiastically to Kokilavan to meet Krishna, she unfortunately saw her mother-in-law with his Jatila. So Jatila and Kokila. Jatila and Kutila. This is mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. And so Jatila was right at the boundary of the door, door of the house. She was sitting there and checking on that nobody should come in and nobody should go out of the house. So Radharani just could not leave the house. And when Krishna was playing this flute, and he was feeling that Radharani must come now. She would just come now. But when she didn't come, he started to cry in separation. And he said to Subala, Subala, you somehow or the other arrange Radharani to come here. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave my body. I'm going to leave this prana in this body, and I cannot stay without Radharani. Subala said, okay, I'll try my best to bring Radharani to meet you, but please wait here with patience. So Subala goes to the house of Radharani, which is in Yavat, and Jatila was sitting there. Seeing Subala, Jatila asked, Subala, how come you are here today? Why are you wandering around? And Subala offered his obeisances to Jatila, paid respects, and said that what to tell you, my dear grandmother, I have lost my calf, and the cow, the mother, is crying for her. So I've been looking here and there, and now I'm wondering here in this area, I suspect my calf must be just around here. So Jatila felt very compassionate and said, oh dear, this is what has happened. Why don't you take some rest in the house, drinking water because it's so hot and your face is all red. Just go inside, take some water, and then you can look for your calf. So Subal was just happy because this is the opportunity he was looking for. He just darted into the door and straight comes to Radharani and says, what are you doing? Lord Krishna, our Krishna is waiting for you in Kokilavan, and you did not arrive, so he is becoming restless and in separation. He is about to give his life. He's uttering, hey Radhe, and fainting again and again. When Radharani heard this, she says, Subala, what do I do? Just see how my mother-in-law, this Jatila, is sitting on the door and she won't allow me to go out. How can I just leave the house like this? We have do something. I do want to meet my Lord. And Radharani looked at Subala with so many tears in his eyes. And then Subala said, I have a trick. I have a trick that you take my dress and I'll take your dress. And then you go out and meet Krishna like that. Now, how is that possible? Be practical, Radharani said. I can't just go out like this. she will recognize me straight away. I said, no, 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 no. Jatila, she's not able to see properly. So, and the good thing is that my face and my features are very much like yours. So Subala is brother of Chandravali, and his features were very much like Radharani and complexion. He said, okay, all that is fine, but how do I cover myself? If I dress you, if I take your dress, then how do I cover my breasts? Because that's a feminine aspect that I have. And how do I cover my hair? So Subala said, that's not a problem. We'll tie your hair up and you can wear my turban. And then to hide the breast, I'll give you a cuff. And then you take the cuff and go. So by this, Radhika thought that, this is a great plan. I can follow this plan. And he said, okay, let's do this. Then Subala gave all his clothes to Radharani, and Radharani wore, and thereafter the turban hid all her hair, and then a cuff was given to Radharani. She was looking perfectly like Subala now. And then Subala, what he did, he wore all the clothes of Radharani. All other Sakhis and Gopis, they started to put makeup on Subala and make her look like Radharani. And thereafter, they also made artificial breast for her with some cloths. And that way, Subala started to look perfectly like Radharani. And then Radharani walked off the gate, and Jatila at the gate said, so Subala, have you got your calf now? And Subala said, because she can't speak. So she said, and like that she left. And Jatila never got to know that Radharani has left the house. So then in Kokulavan, Krishna was eagerly waiting for Radharani. And what he sees that Subala is coming with a calf in his hand. And he becomes so desperate and he says, oh Subala, I sent you to bring my dear Radharani with yourself, but you have returned unsuccessful. Never in the past it has happened like this. Never. You have always come back with Radha. Where is my Radharani now? Maybe she has come across some other greater obstacles. So thus imagining different reasons for Radharani's non-appearance, Krishna was becoming very worried. Very worried. Thinking of all of this, he started, and he wanted to understand more from Subala what's happening. So Radharani, she continued in the disguise of Subala, and she was looking at Krishna, and she was in the ecstasy, floating in the ocean of ecstasy at the sight of Krishna in this mood. She did not reveal her identity, and she came closer to Krishna, and then Krishna said, "Oh Subala, why have you come alone? Where is my Radha, who's more dear to me than my own life?" Now just imagine Radharani is hearing her own glorification directly from Krishna. Where have you hidden her? Why are you giving me more pain and not revealing where she is? What kind of enjoyment are you deriving by giving me such pain? If you have hidden her somewhere, then kindly bring her. Save my life. I will just die in separation. So like this, Krishna is talking to Radharani. And Radharani came very close. And the voice of Subala, she said, "My friend, as you ordered, I went to Jatila's house on the pretext of searching for my lost calf. But then I saw this Jatila, old lady, sitting on the door, and she stopped me. She was having a stick in her hand. Somehow I went inside the house with her permission, and there I saw Radharani crying, her head hanging down in misery. She was crying in separation from you, unable to leave the home. All the Sakhis, including Lalita Devi, they were all counseling her. So when Radharani saw me, she asked where I had come from and whether I had seen you. I explained how you are suffering in separation from her. I told her that because she had gone to the forest that day, that you had sent me to take her with me. Then she replied, my mother-in-law is sitting on the door. How can I leave? Then just I came back. I just couldn't get Radharani for you. So when Krishna heard this, hopeless news from Subala. He said, "Oh Subala, you know all that kinds of tricks. Whenever I send you to bring Radharani, you bring her. But this time, how have you failed? Why have you not succeeded this time? I cannot just survive in this world without her." And Krishna was just lamenting and in separation, so sorrowful. "When I sent you to bring Radharani, I told you that I will leave my body from the pain of separation. Now, you please give her my peacock feather, my flute, and my gunjmala." Then Krishna started to cry loudly, uttering the name of Radharani. "Oh Radhe, oh Radhe, oh my most dear Radhe." And when Radharani saw Krishna's desperation, she could not control herself any longer. She put the calf on the ground and removed the turban from her head. Immediately, her hair fell loose and hung down her back. When Krishna saw that Subal was actually his beloved Srimati Radharani, he embraced her with affection and took her inside the kunj. After their loving exchanges, Radharani then left for her house. By that time, Subala also came, who was still in the dress of Radharani, had come out of the house along with other Sakhis on the pretext of going to Jamuna to fetch the water. And this way, Nashimati Radharani met her Sakhis and Subala at Yamuna and changed out of Subala's clothes and into her own. So, such are the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. There are many such pastimes. There's a story of how Krishna restores the chastity of Radharani, and one time how the flute of Krishna was left behind in the bedroom of Radharani, and then Purnamasi got to know. Jatila got to know about it, and then Purnamasi made arrangements that she said that there was a rain of flute everywhere in the Vraja, and they found some flutes in the room of Jatila as well. There's so many beautiful pastimes of Vraja Leela, and devotees who are more interested can please read through the book, The Glories and Pastimes of Srimati Radharani, Part 1 and Part 2, and can really relish the pastimes of Vrajadham. So with this, now I beg devotees to, if they have comments, it is a difficult subject matter to cover. If there are comments and reflections, or somebody wants to share more wisdom, please do so. And maybe either I can answer, or if some senior devotees are here in the group, they can answer. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful class. Thank you for all the wonderful points. Really insightful, really interesting to understand all these pastimes. Just a question, you mentioned about Lamba Lamba, and you also mentioned about the Barakia verse. So there's competition between the gopis and Krishna. The more they see Krishna, the more Krishna is beautified. The more Krishna sees the gopis, the more they are beautified. It's a wonderful scene here. So we see that there is competition in the spiritual world like this. Now, can you just describe the competition in the material world with devotees, how that should sort of like be seen out, but also the competition which is devoid of Krishna consciousness in the material world. Could you please explain and discuss that a little bit, please?
Thank you for that nice question. So this pastimes of Srimati Radharani and Lord Krishna and gopis, this is transcendental. This is at the platform of Suddha Sattva, which is beyond the modes of nature. We are conditioned souls, and this whole material world is conditioned by these three modes of nature. So anything beyond that is spiritual. In that spiritual realm, the competition is
actually is completely opposite of what we experience in the material world. In the transcendental world or realm, giving joy to the other is more joyful than giving misery to others. In the material world, one gets a lot of pleasure in making sure that one becomes more successful than the other. Not only that, some get more pleasure in making sure that not only he becomes successful, he also makes sure that the other person becomes weaker and completely uh, annihilate him. In the corporate worlds, we see that how these big companies are competing with each other, making sure that their brand name becomes very big. But they also make sure that the competition becomes very weak, and to the point that competition does not exist at all. So they make sure that somehow or the other, they work in a way which is very selfish and driven by a mode of ignorance and mode of passion. So therefore, the competition in the material world is driven by lust, kama bhavana. It's not driven by a feeling of love. Feeling of love is where, with no personal ulterior motives, we serve the person who we are in relationship with, and we give pleasure to them. We give all kinds of pleasure to them, uh, not for our satisfaction, for their satisfaction. And the perfection of that pleasure is giving pleasure of that satisfaction is giving pleasure to Lord Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is beautifully explained the difference between lust and love. Lust, that lust develops by the combination of soul with mode of passion. Kama esha krodha esha rajogur samadpapa mahashanu mahapapam avidya verinam. Whereas love, that is very different, because love has no tinge of lust at all. It's a difference between a gold foil and iron foils. So now coming to the point of devotional competition. When we read through Leela Amrita, and when we read through the commentaries of Prabhupada disciples like Tamal Krishna Maharaj, in his Servants of Servants, he is explaining this transcendental competition of book distribution. This transcendental competition of book distribution was very much encouraged by Srila Prabhupada. And he said that one temple should beat the other temple in book distribution, and other temples should then beat the first temple into book distribution. And there was a transcendental competition between various devotees. I remember the instance when Tamal Krishna Maharaj had opened up the Damodar party, and how he was recruiting new bhaktas in his bus. Beautiful Gaur-Nitai deities were there. Vishnujan Maharaj was there, and they were recruiting new devotees from various university campuses, and immediately engaged them in the devotion service of distribution of books. On the East Coast and on the West Coast, there was this Tripurari Maharaj, and he was engaged in distributing books at airports and all other various places, and they were both competing with each other. And there was a time when Prabhupada was writing letters to Tamal Krishna Maharaj that, look, you are getting defeated now, and you should be doing more. And then he would write similarly to the Tripurari Maharaj. And this way, you see, the competition was a transcendental competition, which was for the pleasure of their spiritual master. And such competition is encouraged by the spiritual master, because ultimately it is for the pleasure of Lord, and it is for spreading the mission of Lord Chaitanya in this material world, which is to save every soul on the planet Earth. This is the mission for which Lord Chaitanya appeared in this world. So this competition then becomes very transcendental. But if devotees are not mature, and if they are still driven by the ulterior motives, they will not be able to experience the joy of this transcendental happiness of defeating each other in the competition of serving, of devotional service to rendered to the spiritual master. Therefore, devotees who are mature, they will always find joy in finding the progress of others, and then making attempt to surpass those progresses, and then again making sure that the other devotees progress more than themselves, continuously exchanging these transcendental mallows, even on the material realm. So that's how we can see these transcendental exchanges. I hope I have made an attempt to answer your question.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful points there. Wonderful. Hare
So
Krishna.
there is a question on the chat. I think it was mentioned that Radharani should be worshipped before Lord Krishna. Should we worship her directly or should we worship her through Lord Chaitanya, who is a combination of both? Are there specific mantras or prayers we can worship Radharani with? Okay. So, Jai Prabhu, thank you for your question. In Gaudiya Parampara, we are worshipping Radharani by worshipping Lord Chaitanya. This is direct worship of Radharani. Now, in the temples, see, this is a very mysterious aspect of Lord Krishna. Haladani Shakti. This Shakti was not known to many prior to appearance of Lord Chaitanya. In his lecture, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj was explaining that it is only after the advent of Lord Chaitanya that people started to know who is Srimati Radharani. Prior to that, it was Rukmani Devi, Lakshmi Devi, who they are worshipping as Vaikuntapati. And so Radharani's glories are revealed to us through Lord Chaitanya and through the Gaudiya Vaishnava Paramparas, because Lord Chaitanya is nobody else but Radharani. Prior to that, Radharani was not even kept on the altars or for the worship. She was not situated on the altars. And there was a big debate in Jaipur between the Ramanuji or Ramanandis and the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, that how Radharani, who is not the legitimate married wife of Krishna, be worshipped on the altar with Krishna. And that time, our parampara, we presented the essence, the principles, the tattva of Radharani. And by those presentations, they were defeated. And since then, they accepted the worship of Radharani. And they accepted that Lord Chaitanya is a bona fide parampara. And so the glories of Srimati Radharani, they were hidden. And now they have come to complete understanding. Now that we have come to complete understanding, even the Vindavantham, it was completely hidden from the vision of normal people. It was only by Lord Chaitanya that he pointed out that this is Radha Kund, this is Sham Kund, these are the pastimes of Radharani, this is the Rasa Leela, all the ones of Vrindavan, they were all exposed to us by Lord Chaitanya. Therefore, worshipping Lord Shyam, Sundar and Radharani is important, but for us to worship Gaur Nitai is most important, because it's only through Gaur Nitai and specifically through Nityanand that we can reach to Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And once we reach to Gauranga Mahaprabhu, she is Radharani, because it is explained that she's giving the treasure house of love of God to the most unqualified. And only way that one can do this is that when, let's say, when there is a king who has got so much of treasure, and will he just give this treasure to anybody and everybody? It is explained that it can only happen when this king is completely intoxicated. And in that intoxication, he can go out and start to distribute his wealth to anybody and everybody without any qualifications. Similarly, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Krishna, is completely intoxicated in the love of Srimati Radharani, that's the mood he has appeared, and he has come to save the conditioned souls and give that love of Krishna to each and every conditioned soul. In that situation, he's giving this love of Radharani, love of Krishna to everybody by the chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And in Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare word is for Radharani. So although we have specific mantras like we sing Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate, Gopesha Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta, Manosu Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vishvanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari. We had these verses, but we worship Radharani through this mantra. This mantra means, Oh Mother Radharani, Oh Lord Krishna, please be pleased with us and award us devotional service unto the lotus feet of Radha Krishna. So this mantra in itself is the most powerful mantra to continue to pray Radharani, and Shri Gauranitai is the most powerful deities that we can worship and get the mercy of Radharani. Now, to qualify ourselves to worship straight Radha and Krishna is a difficult job, and therefore there are a lot of rules and regulations to worship them. Therefore, they are mostly worshipped in the temples. For grihasthas who are at home, it is recommended that we worship Gauranitai and we see Radharani and Krishna in Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Okay, so I think there are no more questions on the chat box. Thank you, dear devotees, for your time that you have chosen to be here and listen the glories of Srimati Radharani. Thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvaya patithanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna, Manu Prabhu. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. And thank you everyone also for participating and listening attentively. His Grace Manu Prabhu ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, entire Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you for a wonderful class.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Wonderful.